Well, I'm going to give this a whirl, although I'm a little tired, so how much I'll do tonight is up for debate. But let's get started on part 2 of the Gainesville, Georgia story. Actually, it's part 1 because the first part was just talking about how I got into glass negative. So we're going to talk about the Gainesville, Georgia photographers, plural, Nathan C. White Sr. and Nathan C. White Jr. For the record, I have over 700 negatives, but I'm more than certain they all were taken by N.C. White Jr. So just keep that in mind. N.C. White Sr. was born in Danville, Virginia in 1828. And he ended up serving in the Civil War for the Confederacy. And he went in as a private, and he did reach the rank of captain. He was captured, however, and he was kept in prison until the end of the war. And he was kept in the prison at Johnson Island. I'll have to look that up exactly where that is. After he got out of prison, he ended up in Alabama, and he was involved in the cotton industry and banking. And that's where he met his wife, Helen House, and they got married in 1868. By the 1870 census, they were living in Dyer, Tennessee, and that's where they had all their children. So their firstborn was N.C. White Jr., Nathan Carroll White Jr., Mary Lou, Maddie Burke, and Nellie Hamilton. And all 4 children were born in Tennessee. In Tennessee is where he got interested in photography, and he built up his skills. And so in 1884, the family moves to Gainesville, Georgia. And that's when he establishes a photography studio. So during this time, young Nathan is learning the trade from his father. So when he starts apprenticing under his father, I don't know, but probably I would say probably early teens. That would be the time where a lot of young men would start learning a trade, so to speak. So he probably was involved in the photography studio at an early age. I don't believe the daughters were part of the photography studio other than being subjects of some of the photographs. So he did take several photos of his children, and I don't own those negatives, but Bill Riley does own some of the photographs, the negatives of the children that were taken by Nathan C. White Sr. So he does have possession of those. Although N.C. White Sr. was still listed as a photographer in the late 1800s, I'm certain that N.C. White Jr. was the primary photographer even in the late 1800s, and certainly he took over the entire business upon his father's death in 1913. So he had a transitional period, I'm sure, where they were both probably taking pictures, but likely less and less by N.C. White Sr. And then we get into Junior's ascendancy, and we'll talk about that more later. So I want to kind of make this short because I want to focus on each of the children, and I'm not going to do it in sequence that you probably think I should, because I want to do the daughters first because they're going to be kind of simpler, and I may do them all in one fell swoop, and then I'll do NC White Junior at the end. So this is actually part 1, because the first one was my conversation about how I got into glass negatives. This is the first one on NC White and the Gainesville, Georgia negatives. So stay tuned for part 2.